So, welcome everyone. The clock has struck 11 on my watch, and so we're gonna get going with the second BATS webinar, this time on winter maintenance. Yeah, so welcome. Firstly, I'd like to just present myself, as I'm going to be your host today. My name is Klaus Espen, and I'm a city planner and work here at Gate 21. Gate 21 is an NGO that works within the green transition with a lot of different partners that we have here in the eastern part of Denmark. And I work mainly with mobility. And yeah, we're based in the suburbs of Copenhagen. And so to the agenda for today, we have a lot of interesting things to get through. Firstly, I'm going to give us a short presentation of the BAS project. For those of you who don't already know the project. Afterwards, we're gonna Martin is gonna present about their progress on winter maintenance in Umeå and their project around the Winter Scouts. Afterwards, Maria Jose is gonna tell us about the alternative de-icing materials that they've been using in Hamburg. And lastly, Damione is gonna give us a presentation about how Estonian municipalities have been working with winter maintenance. Lastly, we have a Q&A session where we'll have kind of a general debate. But if there's any questions, like relatively simple questions to the presenters, you're very welcome to post them in the chat, like during the meeting, and we can ask the presenters. So we'll read aloud the questions that you have. Yeah. So here are our presenters for today. Firstly, we're going to hear from Martin, as I said, who's a road engineer in Umeå. Maria Jose Feldman, a road engineer from Hamburg. And lastly, Damiano Cerone, urbanist, who's based in Finland. So before we get into the presentations, I'll give you a quick introduction to the BATS project. So BATS is an acronym for from the overall title of the project, which is the Baltic Sea Region Active Mobility Solutions. And I think actually BATS is I think it's one of the coolest project titles of any project that I've worked on. Actually, I think it fits very well to the overall like thematic of the project. And so, what is it about BATS? Basically, the main idea of the project is to work with active mobility and how we can make it more attractive in our cities. As active mobility in a lot of places across Europe is not very attractive or feasible in some cases year round, and can also not feel safe for a lot of user group. And a big part of that is the infrastructure that isn't designed or maintained to be used in adverse weather conditions. And just to give a quick vision of the partners in the project, we are 12 partners, 12 main partners, among which 7 pilot cities that test out a lot of different solutions in their cities. And then we are 5 knowledge partners, one of which I work for, Gate 21. And there are also 45 associated organizations in the project that either contribute to or learn from the project in various ways. And the 2 main outcomes from the project are firstly a toolkit for city planners or other municipal officials to work with year-round mobility interventions, and a citizen activation guide for municipal officials to work with and understand the needs of their citizens when working with year-round active mobility. Yeah. So for that reason, all the different pilot cities try to implement all these different initiatives in their cities, and that's part of what we're going to hear about today. Firstly, we're going to hear from Martin, who's going to talk us through what they've been working on in Umeå. So Martin, if you want to share your screen, I'll pass the word to you.
Okay, thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, let's see if this works. Yes.
It does, but you should put you should put it on like full screen
Yeah.
for people to better see the. Thank you.
Is that good?
Great.
See this? Okay, so my name is Martin, and I work, as you said, as a road engineer in Umeå municipality with winter road maintenance. And this is just some of the topics, but also this Winter Scouts is something that is new or kind of new. We tried it last winter, so I'm going to talk a little bit about that and just show you how we do it to try to get people to use the bike more in a very north part of Sweden. And you talked about a little bit of bats. I'm not in the project itself. I have some colleagues that I think is here in the webinar. So they're involved in the project, but I'm trying to get their wheels into the public. So that was about the project. And what is a Winter Scout or who? Someone who cycles or walks during the winter. You can read the text here. It's a lot of text maybe, but the inspiration came from Oulu in Finland, where they used pedestrians and cyclists to report back to the municipality on how it was to use the cycle path in the city. So we have always had like an error system for the citizens to report to us, but this is trying to get them more involved and feel like their opinion really matters. So we choose them. We told that we're searching for people who wants to be involved into this and what is expected of them, and then it feels like they get a better experience if it feels like someone is listening to them. And we also have like a startup meeting where I almost give like this presentation and show them how we work with winter road maintenance. So the plan is that they're supposed to report back to us every week, or it depends on the weather, of course, but all issues they see on the roads, it can be winter road maintenance basically, but it usually have been like more other problems like the lightning or how the road is built or something if it feels unsafe. But basically we want them to tell us everything that is considered an obstacle not to bicycle in the winter. And it's part of the BATS projects. And this is also something maybe not like from the BATS project, but like we do to try to feel more safe when you're using it in the winter, because of course we got a lot of snow here, so we have to show them where the cycle path is and where the pedestrians are supposed to walk. And then lightning projection is a pretty smart solution. It's a bit expensive to have everywhere, but where we have where they're not separated cycle path and pedestrian walkaways, we can try to use this in a good way. But as you see on the left picture, where there are narrow areas, it kind of lights up in the snow too. So yeah, it's about designing a good cycle path, basically. It will work better. And just to show you, it's a lot of my presentation now is about how it is in Umeå, that we are a kind of widespread municipality. So it stretches from up in the north, Sävar, and down to Hörnefors. It's, I don't know how many miles it is. I think it's 60 kilometers maybe between them. So we have to have entrepreneurs in every area. And we started with a new kind of contract 4 years ago that we support, and that was like we divided the city into these areas basically, because before we had one big contract for everything, and that was not maybe the economic was better for the municipality, but the result after they plowed was not so good. We started to get them paid by the hour instead. And that makes them encourage them to make a better result than to just go through with it as a whole snow chore when you just get one amount of money for each time it snows. Do it by the hour and they will get a better results. And we have like priorities for roads and for bicycle path, of course, and it looks like this on our website. Maybe a little many colors. It's not so easy to follow maybe, but priority 1 and 2 for streets and cycle path. This winter we also tried with our Prio Plus, like an extra good cycle path. That does, it's like we call them out double times, what do you say, twice as many times as the others. So just to get them even better shape. And we have criteria, of course, when we're supposed to start with it. And yeah, cycle path is 3 to 10 centimeters, and they're supposed to do it in 5 hours. But then we go out even earlier for this Prio Plus standard cycleways. We have a calling system for this, which is web-based with maps, so they don't, before we started with the GPS and everything, they had like their maps on the paper and with them in the machine. But now we can be more dynamic and change things that we see, like, oh, maybe we need to take this area too, or you know, add something or remove something. This is very, very easy to work with, and it gives them a better, you know, you can follow it up basically even better. So if I want to just plow this area with these 3 machines, they all see each other and how much they have done and how much is left, so they can work together to achieve that. And we can supervise them and look at this and see what they are doing and how much they have done in amount of time, or yeah, they just click in a status button in the machine, and then yeah, we see what they have done. This is also what they use to get paid. So you have to have the GPS on. It's like a geographic filter, so you only get paid on your own roads. And it's easy for the machine. And if you see this picture, it's a bit small. We can see if they have an obstacle or something that's in the way, so they can't do their job really. And here it was like a big pile of dirt on the cycle path. So they report that in. They just take a picture in the system with their telephone, or I lost the name now, but or their iPad or whatever they have. And then we can easily see if they reported anything that has to be dealt with from our view. And we have something on our website too to show how we are doing. This is all our cycle path in the main area of Umeå. And on the website, citizens can see how we're proceeding. This is like how much have been plowed the last 4 hours is the green, and 8 hours is the blue. And we hope that that is giving them some clues on to choose which, because we can't take away all the snow at the same time. So when it snows, they has to know how we're doing. Is the bicycle path pre-1 okay, so you can take the bike to work and home as well. So this is like an a tool for them. And this is basically how it looks when we plow the roads. Today it's 4+ degrees and it's raining, but that's part of our new problem, that it's not so cold anymore in the north of Sweden. But this is what we want it to look like, because then we could get a good cycle path rather than ice. And this is on the road really, so maybe not so much for the cycle path. This is a snowblower that we use to make more space. And I don't know what you call this in English really, but ice removal. It's a very heavy blade that you remove the ice. It takes a long time, but it really gets a good surface beneath. And then we do a lot of the snow removal on trucks too. And that's like our biggest cost, is that the city is densifying, so we have to remove more and more snow. And this is what we do with the snow. We build this giant landfilling snow tips, I guess. And you can see the trees. This was on the start of the season, a big hole in the ground. You fill the hole and then you start building a mountain. And this is just snow that is coming from the municipality in Umeå, in the central, you can say. So this can be how much snow we have, and this is just one of our tips. We have 3 tips, maybe not so big as this one. This is the biggest one. And then this is supposed to melt until next winter. But yeah, it's time consuming and the environmental impact is pretty high. Because this is how it looks like. Point A is that big snow tip. And one truck doesn't take so much snow. When you see this, you understand that there's a lot of trucks that needs to go here to build it like that. And the slippery runoff from surrounding surface and freezing at night is a big problem, especially in the spring when it's warm in the day and it freezes at the night. So this is what we do, and we have also the problem with where to put the snow when it's a lot of snow, and this is why we do the snow removal, because the cycle path will get narrow and people will stop using them. And then they start walking with the buses and cars in the streets if we don't remove the snow. We put out a lot of anti-slip material, and then we have to collect that too in the spring. And we have like timetables on our website where they can see how we're proceeding and what area we're doing. And of course, the most heavily trafficked roads are taken first, and then we go out like priority 2. And all collected material is recycled. And this is how it looks like in April here. We're trying to get the asphalt so you can use the roads and bicycle path, but there's a lot of snow left. And this is really the 2 problems we have. It's the runoff from immediate areas, and that is like melting water that freezes in the night, and where to put the snow. And the city is becoming even more densified, and well, we need our citizens, of course, but it's a lot of costs on where to put the snow. And it's not really something that always goes with the planning, and that's why we want to be so involved, road engineers, when we're traffic planning and building new areas in the city. Because dumping it in the river might sound like the easy solution, but pollution and other dirt from the road is not something we want to have in the ocean. So that's a problem. Yeah, and basically that's Yeah, that's the problem. And that was my last picture. So I hope you understand our problems and our ways of dealing with them. Thank you.
Excellent, Martin. Thank you very much. Very interesting. Great. Then we'll give the words to Maria Jose. Who'll take us through what they've been working on in Hamburg with alternative de-icing materials.
Yeah. Can you all hear me?
Yes, very well.
Perfect. And you can also see the first slide, right?
Yep.
All right, so I guess we're good to go. Firstly, thanks for inviting me to speak today. I'm actually not a road engineer, just so no disappointment occurs. I'm
Sorry.
actually, oh, that's fine. I'm head of operations, and it's our responsibility to do the strategic planning as well as the process management. And we also have the lead in all projects, also the tests of different de-icing materials. So it's the same for the road cleaning as well as winter maintenance, but today we are here to talk a little bit about winter maintenance in the city of Hamburg. I'll be concentrating more of the operational side. And spoiler alert, we definitely have different issues than in the northern part of Sweden, that's for sure. And then I'll talk a little bit about our two tests involving de-icing chemicals and all the challenges that come with that. So I would like to start a little bit to talk about a little bit the legal mandate, the general basis for our sovereign winter maintenance. Is actually quite complex in Hamburg. We are responsible for the traffic safety when it comes to roads and also paths, but only the public ones. And so it's important to differentiate between residential obligations and our obligations. And we also only have to handle particularly dangerous sections of important roads and paths, so mainly primary roads, with always, of course, looking at infrastructural needs, and have to also give special consideration to the access of public transport. We have our roads, and if anything happens outside of those agreed routes, we have to be called by the police. We have a service center for that is working 24/7. So whenever the police calls, we get like an operation on the road to take care of that. And another specialty is that we are only allowed to use salt-containing agents on roads. So we have to use abrasives materials on any other paths that are separated from the road. Even though we don't have the overall responsibility, we do quite a lot. Actually, in the wintertime, our cleaning teams that usually do the road cleaning and park cleaning and so on are working in the winter maintenance, in the winter service. So obviously that has a little conflict coming with other obligations we have. So we have to also work together with other companies that support us. We do around about 3,200 kilometers of roads, and also over 1,600 bus bays, over 8,400 pedestrian crossings, all the bus stops in Hamburg, and wherever there is no residential obligations, we also do pedestrian walks path. And I'll talk a little bit more about our specialty cycle routes, because there is something quite special about that here in Hamburg. But we do round about 315 kilometers, most of them with a double treatment due to the fact that we have to use abrasive materials on most of the roads. Let's start with the pedestrian path. The selection is, as always, based on the danger of the path, and we only do them when they are considered high traffic areas without residential obligations. As a few examples, we have path around in park areas, of course, public places, plazas, and we do a lot of public stairs and ramps, and have to take care of the exit routes to public transport. As we do a lot of ramps and stairs, of course, we can't do everything with our machines, as you see one in the picture. We also have a few kilometers that we have to carry out manually, and we have special teams for that. We do have a few challenges. It's not the snow or where to go with all the snow, because there is traditionally there is not a whole lot, and it melts quite fast. So that is not our issue. Our main issue when it comes to pedestrian routes is more that we have the adjacent owners that have the responsibility for most sidewalks. And we have been having issues with them since they're not always fulfilling their obligations. And it's also very difficult for people in Hamburg to understand the different responsibilities. So we started a informational campaign, especially last year, because 2 years ago we had quite a few issues with that, also in the city center where there is a lot of shopping malls and so on. So we sent out a letter to all the households in Hamburg informing that about their obligations. And what we do also each year is that we have special pamphlets for the waste containers for each household. So they are reminded whenever they take out the trash that they also have an obligation to fulfill, especially in the winter time. And also we renewed our communication within social media, website, and so on. So we try to keep everyone informed about the obligations, theirs and of course also ours. Let's talk about cycle routes. I already said that we carry out the winter maintenance on around 315 kilometers. That is single. It's almost double since we have the double treatment, which is, as I said, required because most routes are treated with abrasive spreading materials. We use gravel for that. And since they have no de-icing effect, we have to do them twice. We only have a it always remains the same. We have a our network is coordinated with our responsible departments, so the routes don't change unless the departments decide that we need to widen the net that is worked on. I can say, and you can see it's only the green parts that are being worked on, so it's mostly inner city, but we do know that in order to increase the usage of the cycle path, especially in the wintertime, we need to obviously widen the net of working. But yeah, that brings me to my first challenge. The maintenance, the winter maintenance of Psychopath is not anchored in law. So nobody is really responsible. And that is also the reason why we need to coordinate the routes that we do winter maintenance on. And the past few years, this cycle routes net has not been adjusted. And currently is also not planned to be expanded. Especially, of course, as always, it's a municipal budget issue, and that needs planning. But we have different meetings with the responsible departments each year, and yeah, we are only the service providers, so we would be open, of course, to do more, but obviously we also need the resources to do so. So that is one of the major challenges. Other than that, going back to the people, not only to live in Hamburg, but also who visit Hamburg, it is quite difficult to know which parts are actually part of the winter maintenance net. So you can look it up online, of course, but it's difficult to understand. And I also find it quite hard to understand. And even I have to look it up sometimes if we are responsible or not. So I can only imagine, as a person who doesn't have to do anything to do with the topic of winter maintenance, is totally lost in translation and doesn't really know where to go. Yeah. We also have conflicting objectives. We want to, or the city wants to, increase the mobility, especially in the winter time, especially on cycle routes. But then we have the topic of budget. And so there's obviously a conflict. And even though I personally think it's very important also to increase the protected bike lanes and Copenhagen style path in Hamburg, because as a cyclist, it's not too safe otherwise. For us, it means that we need more resources because the protected bike lanes, for example, are separated from the road, so we can't do them with one of our road vehicles. We have to use separate vehicles, and that, of course, increases the requirements for our resources. And as that is not enough, we also have a pending legal agreement between the responsible departments. On the one hand, we have our mother department for it's called Bukea for environment is one of the main aspects, and then we have the department for traffic and also mobility, and they have different understandings of the classification of especially Copenhagen style cycling tracks because they say that it's separated, so it's a disagreement on what spreading materials can be used and also who's responsible. And that is...
Marty,
yeah.
Sorry to interrupt you, but you just have a couple minutes left.
Okay, that is fine.
We
We only have 2 slides left. I'll
okay.
talk a little faster. So we identified the need to find solutions in order to increase the mobility. So we started a pilot last year using brine solution on cycle paths. And there's 2 main focuses. One is the operational feasibility, which lays with us, of course, and then there's the ecological impact. And we are planning on testing at least 3 to 5 years. We have 2 routes around 2 kilometers, and the current conclusion based on last year's performance is that it's very good for us, that the de-icing effect is obviously there. We have an easy handling as we also produce brine solution ourselves. And you can use it especially to prevent icing on the cycle path. And the soil analysis so far finds that it can be considered normal, but it's important to say at this point that, of course, we need more time in order to have meaningful results. We also are planning on testing sodium formate on cycling routes. It has been in the making for this season, but we have conquered a few challenges on the way, especially when it came to finding a test route. That was quite difficult because there's a lot of stakeholders who have to agree on the test route. Some agreed routes have been withdrawn, so we had to find new ones. But current status, good news, we have found a test route, and we are now waiting on the permission to use sodium formate because as any de-icing materials are forbidden, we have to get permission to do so. We have everything ready. Basically, our staff is trained. We have the sodium format already here, and we are hoping to get started as we already had our first snow. Only for a day, but it would have been awesome to already start. But hoping to do so with the next winter maintenance operation. I hope I didn't take too long.
That's good. Don't worry. This is your last slide?
Yes.
Great. Thank you very much. Thank you so much. Then I'll pass the word quickly to Damiano in the interest of time.
Hi, yes, I'm gonna start here. Just do that quickly. Okay. Do you see my screen?
Yep.
Great. So I wear several hats, so which also means I want to give you a different perspective on why winter maintenance it's been a topic in which I ended up working it. So I indeed I research at Tampere University, and then I work with cities at Spin Unit, and then I co-founded Urbanist AI and Coplan AI, which are participatory planning platforms. And I'm going to tell you a bit then a bit of a story about that. So why it's important for us to work in street maintenance. From academic research, kind of what I've been doing for the past 15 years has been actually looking at the linkages between the exposure to urban greenery and disease in children. So actually we had about 20,000 kids in Finland that participated to the study. And what we found out is that the kids that lived in cities, they were more likely to develop non-communicable diseases like diabetes type 1, asthma, and so on. This was like the data of these 20,000 children was over like 20 years, so since the 90s actually. But now, like, so to check if it really is something to do with the land uses in cities, we started to basically with a new project. We started to transform the places where children are, so the kindergartens and places where they walk and hang out with their kind of friends. And what we're seeing actually is that the answer is sort of yes. So actually transforming places that are usually, they either have asphalt or they have playgrounds. Quite often they also have this kind of a plastic, kind of a rubber playgrounds. If we replace those with greenery that we bring from the Finnish countryside, we saw that actually within 28 days, children already sort of have a stronger immune system. Their gut microbiota has lower inflammation, and also even on their skin, we see that there are less harmful bacteria that actually can cause certain disease to explode. And there is a very nice article just published like a week ago on The Guardian about this. So if you want to go through it, please go ahead. But the long story short is that my perspective on YRAM, which is the year-round active mobility, is that if we use less, of course, we can transform every single yard in Finland or in Estonia, but like one thing we can do, we can increase exposures to nature by actually improving the active mobility. So walking and cycling on bike lanes and streets that actually have greenery. So it has a very strong effects on physical and mental health. So this has been sort of the focus for quite many years for me. However, what cities typically do is that they approach this by increasing the infrastructure. So instead of maintaining what's already there, there is, of course, the idea that we need to build more bike lane and more pedestrian way. But this sort of almost goes against the entire idea of active mobility, because as you can see, for example, from these images, those are some new bike lanes built in the city of Tartu in Estonia. We don't need all these ziggity-zaggity, and we don't need bike lanes that are like 5 meters wide. We need them to be in the right place, and we need them to be clean. But this is something that we're seeing kind of everywhere, not only in Estonia, but also in Finland. So one of the issues, let's show a bit Finland, because it's the area where we started these kind of studies, is that when we actually increase the infrastructure, so not only the infrastructure for cars, but the infrastructure for pedestrians and cyclists, we increase even more the impermeable land cover. So we increase asphalt when we increase and we decrease nature, basically. This is a case from Finland. What you see here, it's each building in the whole municipality, and the color shows you the share of land cover surrounding each building. And as you can see, in the city center and in many other residential areas, at least 80%, if not 60%, it's surrounded basically by asphalt or other buildings. And this is kind of quite important because, as we saw from the studies, being in touch with nature, it's extremely crucial for your health. Like there is a direct association between exposure to nature and how your immune system evolves since early ages. So this is quite of a big issue, but what we're seeing again is that to promote cycling and walking, we increase this impermeable surfaces. This is an example where I live in Helsinki. I'm a cycling commuter, so I was very happy that the new bike lane was built. But again, do we really need 5 meters bike lane, and do we need to blow up both forest and rocks to build them? So the issue here that I'm trying to bring up is that if we're trying to promote this exposure to nature through cycling and walking, we might actually start not from building new ones, but from maintaining existing ones, which is the main issue in Nordic countries. By the way, there was a bike lane here, but it was only 2 meters wide. So like it has to be a bit bigger, apparently. And this, of course, like, again, I want to show you land use maps. This is Tallinn in Estonia. And if we only count the land uses for streets, bike lanes, and kind of a parking lots, so again, excluding other built structures, the majority of the buildings in central Tallinn, actually, they are surrounded, kind of half of the land use is just streets, which of course they are also impermeable and don't really bring sort of any addition to the health of the city. Another case, this is from, again, from Tartu in Estonia. We've been working with the city also to produce a new parking reform. We've kind of a design new parking reform for Tallinn, Tartu, and Pärnu, but I'm showing you this one because it's interesting. So what those graphs shows you here, it shows you the percentage of land uses against how much residential space there is inside buildings. So the tiny orange slice of the pie chart is the sum of all the residential surfaces inside each building. So it's basically the net area inside the building, and the others are the surfaces that sort of are in the same neighborhood. And as you can see in black, that's the space for streets, bike lanes, and parking lots. As you can see, in the majority of the cases, it's twice, if not double, the amount of space that there is for living. And in general, if you take even just parking alone, it's actually more than 130% more than the space that there is for living. So we encourage actually cities to make these kind of calculations, because for cities it's relatively easy to make this data. It's there almost anywhere, but it doesn't come often to make this kind of comparison. Okay, how much we have in streets and bike lanes and how much we have in living space. And whenever we have done this kind of exercise, there is always double. So in every city in Finland, here in Estonia, we've done it in 4 different cities. It's about the same percentage. So it's about double the space for streets than for living. So this is sort of what we're basically been talking about, is that perhaps let's start to build less and clean more. And this is a case from Tallinn where we don't know who is doing this, but there is some local artist, I believe, that whenever streets are not being cleaned, he seems to like put those kind of these kind of posters that make a very clear point that, hey, please just be careful. And it's not cleaning, especially in Estonia and in Finland, it's not cleaning so much of the street itself, but it's also about the eyes that could fall on your head. So we should also rethink the all year round walking and cycling activities, not only as, okay, the bike lane is clean, we are fine. No, the bike lane is clean, but what about the roof of the building where the bike lane is? So actually what this signage is telling you is it's not saying that the issue is with the bike lane that is not clean, but the fact that the eyes on top could fall on your head. So then people actually steer away. So I'm not sure if you can see from this image, but people are just kind of walking on the street then. So this is sort of the focus. Of course, you can do a lot of research with AI and find all the best use cases, which of course we have done. But what we found very useful was to go really on the field and try to interview as many people as possible that work in the municipalities and for the municipalities. So we have basically interviewed dozens of people in the Harjumaa region, which is the regional kind of the regional area of Tallinn. And across municipalities, we have done literally one-on-one interviews to understand what's wrong, why those streets are not clean. The policies are there, the money are there, the instruments are there, what's going on. We identified that some of the issues actually have to do with the lack of integrated coordination. So one of the core issues is that the coordination between the municipalities and the consultants, the companies that do the cleaning is quite often lacking, but it's also lacking coordination between different municipalities that share borders, right? And then also data accessibility. Like sometimes it's very important to get up-to-date kind of forecasting data. Like, is it gonna ice? Is it gonna snow? Or even in spring to know like when it's sort of a time when the ice on the roof might fall down. So there is a kind of a lack of a clear common data source for all the different municipalities to kind of predict or sort of prepare for different climate events. And then eventually there is a lack of participation with stakeholders. And by stakeholders also here, what I mean is that even for us to organize a meeting that had, the city planners, the department that takes care of the streets and so on in one single room, it took us almost like a month just to make that one meeting happen. So when I mean participation, I really mean participation across departments and across specialists that are involved into this process. But what was interesting is that throughout these interviews, we also had like some people from the sort of a national agency that takes care of the state streets. It came out quite clearly that one of the main issue why there is sort of a dissatisfaction with the maintenance of the street is that there is a huge amount of fragmentation and complexity in the process. I'd zoom in one part of this process, and what is kind of showing us is that kind of the maintenance is sort of procured by state authorities, by the parish, by municipal councils. But then within the municipal council, for example, there is somebody with there is a body that is governing the general road maintenance. There is one that is taking care of roads in parks, and all of those, they create their own tenders with different companies. So at least in Estonia, the core issue is it's presented basically in this image. Each color that you see of this one crossing, basically, each color shows you who should take care of the street, whether it's the owner of the building that is in front of it, whether it's the parish, or whether it's the state, or whether it's the municipality. So what we noticed that it happened is that with these red dots, that's sort of where snow piles, and snow usually piles up and doesn't get cleared where there is the intersection between, let's say, the state street and municipal street, or the private street and the public street. So at least in Estonia, the issue, it's not funding, it's not institutional, it's not sort of the willingness to clean the street, but it's purely the fact on how the maintenance of street, it's being sort of divided by different public bodies. So for example, what you see even here is that the street, it's kind of a state street, but then the bike lanes are local. So then you have basically different timing of cleaning as well as accumulation of snow in the zones. And it can happen quite a lot. So like that's why there are so many edges between those different kind of area of interest that very easily then you have many places where snow gets very quickly piled up. So this is sort of what we noticed, and this is exactly one of the outcome. This is also actually, this is from Finland. It's next to our office, and also there is happening. So whenever you have like a bike lane crossing, like with major intersection street, somebody's cleaning one, somebody's cleaning the other, and then on the pedestrian crossing you get a pile of snow. But in general, you have 4 different public bodies that, of course, they go out there and hire 4 different contractors that then sort of have to negotiate the actual cleaning of the streets on the day-to-day basis. And this is sort of the general problem. But throughout these interviews, to conclude, the stakeholder engagement is extremely important, because what we noticed throughout these interviews is that there is a general perception that this is okay. That a bit of snow on the street might not be an issue, or sometimes it's not even seen that there is snow piling up. And of course, it's also because quite often, member of the councils or like stakeholders, they actually drive the car. So it's quite difficult for them to really feel engaged with what most people have to deal with in their everyday life. And that's one of the reasons of also working in Coplan AI, first was called Urbanist AI. So this is a participatory AI platform that enables us to engage with these stakeholders and like try to discuss these kind of issues. And I can show you like a quick example that I can do now, like on the fly. Okay, so let's take, for example, this is a street in Helsinki, which is kind of full of snow. What we can do in this kind of engagement session is that we can try to imagine, okay, what if this street was like, okay, clear the snow from the street and add a bike lane and some bike lane and some urban greenery. So in this kind of a session, what you're seeing right now is the back end. Like usually when we do workshop, we have a kind of a nice interface for citizens and stakeholders to participate. But the overall idea that what we've learned in this kind of a 3 years of running this platform is that once you see something, it becomes real. So it's so much easier for sort of a stakeholders and also vice mayors and people that work in this in the cleaning of the streets and the maintenance of the streets, for example, to really understand what is the impact of having a clean street. So of course, what is the impact of having a dirty street, but also what is the impact of having a clean street? And this has become basically a negotiation tool that has been used quite often in city planning, for example, to plan the so-called summer streets in Helsinki. So citizens have kind of co-designed summer streets that then kind of sort of got built. Also like in Munich, for example, like the city has been doing sort of a prototypes of how to transform streets with citizens and so on. Yeah, there is many examples, but also with children is quite nice because for them it's kind of a way to engage with city planning at large and understand what is the impact of transforming urban space. Thank you very much. I hope it was not too rushed and the point came out clear.
Thank you, Damiano. That was great. So now I'll leave the floor open for anyone who has any questions. And maybe while the questions kind of tick in, I wanted to ask you, Damiano, like, so you did this analysis of Estonian municipalities. Is there anything in Estonia that they do radically different from Finland? Like, are there big differences in how they do winter maintenance actually, or like, do you have any thoughts on that?
I think in Helsinki there is a startup, but anyway, so there is a sort of a I think it's kind of municipally owned. So like that, I think the difference is that in Estonia it's there are many more companies taking care of street clearance. So I would say this is the big difference. But honestly, I see that the outcome is not so different either. So like, of course, in Finland you have this that they clean the pedestrian path first. But honestly, as a daily commuter, again, I'm not sure if that's really happening every day. So I don't know. Honestly, things are different, but again, as a cyclist, I don't see that much difference.
Okay, so it works relatively poorly, you would say, like there's room for improvement in both places.
I mean, yeah, the issue is that the new bike lanes is kind of huge, like 3 meters bike lane. They're easier to clean, I believe, so they stay always clean. But then the one that actually they are, if you want, like even central to the city, that they go like through the historic city of Helsinki, you always have this kind of a couple of centimeters of compressed snow, which it's quite tough. But yeah, so in general, in every city, what we're seeing is that there is always class A and class B kind of pedestrian and bike lanes. So there are some that are always nice and clean, and maybe sometimes it's even like there is less people using it. And then the one that almost nobody's using, they seems to be cleaner. But anyway, this is just me being a bit critical right now. But yeah, anyway.
Okay, interesting. Great. Yeah, so I don't see any questions so far in the chat. But then maybe from Phoebe, maybe.
Yes. Thank you all for those very interesting perspectives. I have a question for Martin. You mentioned that when you clean the roads, the material that you collect is recycled. I was wondering, what is it recycled into? Is it recycled within the municipality of Umeå, or what is happening with that material exactly?
Yes, it's recycled here in Umeå. We have an entrepreneur that is mostly building roads. NCC, I think it's an international company. So they try to separate the dirt and everything from it, and you get a lot of different fractions. So we use it again as grit material for the roads.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I see. Thank you.
All right, then I have there's one question from the chat. which talks about, which is a question from Martin as well, I guess. It reads, in Umeå, you said your new contract included more companies. How do you manage the sharing responsibility related to the same issue that Damiano was talking about in Tallinn?
Is the question about us in the municipality or between like the state? Because we also have that issue that the state has some cycle lanes and other roads. Or do you mean like between the
I'm guessing that the
contractors?
question relates to like how do you divide the work between the different companies? Like how do you figure out like who cleans what, basically?
Oh, okay. Well, that's what I showed you with that GPS system. That's all accordingly to what we draw in our maps that we send out to them. So they are only supposed to work with what we decide. And that is something you show when you want to take a contract. We have like maps, like this is one map area that you are supposed to work with. Now we have bike lanes and roads on the same contract in the same area. So you only get when they have to go out and remove snow, you only are allowed to work in that area and by those specific maps that you get on your GPS.
Yeah,
It's separated that way, you can say.
Yeah, and does that work well generally? Like it sounds very clever, but
yeah, it works well. But I guess how it was before, it was easier for us. It's a lot of work for us to make sure that everyone is doing an okay job, like it's the same kind of level on how the work is done too, when there are different entrepreneurs in different areas to get the same results. It's more work for us, but we think it's better for the public, so it's worth it.
Makes sense. Thank you very much, Martin. And I see we're 1 minute over time, so I'll finish off the webinar. Thank you all very much for the attention. We're gonna send out the slides afterwards, and also the webinar has been recorded, so we'll post it online later on the BAPS website, where you're very welcome to share it with anyone who you think might have interest in watching it. And also, if you want to follow the BATS project, you're very welcome to scan this QR code, which will take you to where you can sign up. And if you have any additional questions to me or any of the presenters, you're very welcome to shoot us an email. And that's it. I'll just leave this here for half a minute or something like this before I shut up the meeting. So yeah, thank you all very much, and have a lovely day and a nice weekend when you get there. All the best.
Thank you.